Good evening and welcome to our 2026 World Juniors post-game show. The dream of the three-peat is over, Vigs. Team USA goes down to Finland 4-3 in overtime.
Yeah, disappointing night, I think, for U.S. players, fans. Just, this team made too many mistakes throughout the tournament. And when you have a goaltending situation that the U.S. had coming in, you just can't keep making those mistakes and make it easy for the other team. And, unfortunately, that means an early exit for them and a disappointing tournament.
I will say Kempf played pretty darn good. I mean, even late in the game when it was tied, he made a spectacular leg save to keep, Finland from winning it super late, with like 10, 15 seconds left. I'm kind of wondering why maybe he couldn't have played a little more. Hindsight's 2020, so what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a curious decision with the U.S. goaltending in this tournament. I thought Kempf was the most confident, best goalie of the three in the action we saw. He played top of his paint, made some really athletic saves too, getting in the splits at times and sprawling out and taking away the bottom half of the net. But tonight, the U.S. basically handed Finland 2 goals with lack of coverage in front of the net. Multiple attempts where they could have cleared the zone and they weren't able to, and that just put them under too much pressure tonight.
A lot of people on Twitter going after Motzko, Vigs, which you expect on Twitter, but playing not to win, blah blah blah. I don't know. It's such a short tournament. I don't know if you can really go with that.
If anything, on some of those goals, they're playing to go on offense. It's not that they were, in a prevent defense with 5 players all around the crease. On 2 of those goals, there was nobody in front of the crease, really.
And so there's one cave, playing prevent. I don't know if he was playing prevent, but people are thinking that. They've seen history. That's all. I mean, we've seen it. Obviously, Quinnipiac. We've seen it with St. Cloud. I'm just saying that people are talking about it. I don't know if I necessarily agree.
Yeah, the players after the game tonight, too, were saying, they didn't change anything as the game went on. They were still trying to go on offense and play fast and look for counterattacks. I think they had a really hard time getting pucks on goal against Finland. There were a lot of Finnish players in the shooting lanes and a lot of missed shots that were going behind the net. And the U.S. wasn't doing a great job of retrieving those at times.
Big return for Cole Hudson. Gets a goal, gets an assist. He was, again, just looking spectacular out there.
And confident, too.
Oh, yes.
I think that's the biggest thing he brought to the U.S. lineup was confidence when he was on the ice. He was making positive plays out there with the puck. And it's just a difference maker for the U.S. that I don't think they had with any of their other defensemen. There's always a little bit of caution when other D had the puck on their stick. But when Cole Hudson was out there with the puck, fast play. It was really a difference. And he played over 30 minutes tonight. And I bet the coaching staff wishes they could have played him for 40.
Well, you can only do so much. It's
right.
Luckily, he had a couple. I mean, he was injured, had a couple days off. Maybe his legs were a little better than others.
He didn't look like a player that slowed down as the game went on. I did think that there were some players that looked a little fatigued at times during the third period. But Cole was a difference maker out there for them.
I heard this earlier too. Some people that goalie interference calls what changed the game.
Yeah, maybe, for the most part, the U.S. was pretty disciplined tonight, not taking penalties. That was kind of a weird one. We've seen some weird goalie interference stuff in this tournament. Against Sweden, we saw some shadiness there. We saw the diving call on the Swedish goalie. For me, that's an on call.
Yeah, it's the IIHF. It really is because we had I was spouting out what Dylan was saying, Dylan Laux the other day, and you as well. Right as Yzerman got that power play goal, he was smashed against the boards, which could have been a boarding call or a check from behind. Nothing was being called along the boards, and then a little bit later it was, but it's just anything along the boards, it's just very inconsistent. You don't know what's going to be called, if anything.
Yeah, I thought the officiating all tournament has been inconsistent, and maybe that's what you get with this one. You know, it's definitely something that the coaching staff didn't want to get into after the game.
Yeah, you always have to be quiet about it. Bob will kind of sneak in. Well, you'll have to ask. Like you said before.
Yeah. And well, in this tournament, he'd always say, "Well, what do you think, reporter, about it?"
Well, he did something similar last season when they lost in overtime in the NCAA tournament.
So I just want to get at this because I've seen this on social media a lot, about lobbing the puck out of the zone. I think that's more about the skill and confidence of a lot of the D on the roster as opposed to a strategy from the coaching staff. I'm sure Steve Miller was telling these guys, don't turn the puck over, get it up to the forwards, play fast. But I just don't think we had a lot of defensemen who were comfortable skating up with the puck and joining the rush and creating options and putting Finland on their toes. I just didn't see that out of many guys on the roster. Even back in the summer showcase, one of the big concerns for the coaching staff was I need to find some D for this roster who can break the puck out. That was the number one emphasis in that summer event. And I think it carried over into this one because they had trouble at times getting the puck to the forwards on the tape with momentum.
Oh, there you go. So how about our boys? LJ Mooney, Brody Zemer. How was their tournament, do you think? Did you get a chance to talk to him after the game?
Yep. Zemer, very hard on himself being the captain, feeling like they let down the American fans who support him. You don't get many opportunities to play in a tournament like this. So he was pretty hard on himself. I thought he had a nice tournament. He had a lot of nice play with Hagens. I still kind of wanted to see if Stiga, Hagens, and Zemer could have been aligned. They looked really good in the summer. We didn't really see that during this tournament. LJ Mooney, I think we're going to see him carry over some confidence in his play coming back to Minnesota this year. He's really been good on draws, and he's really been confident with the puck on his stick on the power play. And I just think that he's going to come back a very confident player after this experience. And, he said after the game, I can't wait for this event to come around next year because he's one of those guys who can come back and play again.
Definitely looking forward to that. So Finland advances. They are going to face Sweden because most likely Canada is going to beat Slovakia here. They're up 5-0 starting the second period. So it's going to be Czechia playing Canada in the semis along with Sweden and Finland. Oh, that's a big matchup.
That's going to be a big matchup. We did get to speak to the Finnish goalie after the game, and he talked about how he just loves this event. He's had experience playing against the U.S. and
heartbreaker last year for him. Yes.
Heartbreaker last year for him. And we actually asked him, did this feel like a revenge game? And he's like, no, this isn't revenge. This is mutual respect. Like, we know that the bounces could have gone the other way and we could have been on the losing end, but we stuck to it and just controlled what we can control and came out on top. And he knows that, this tournament, every game is going to be tight. And there's going to be lots of bounces that go for you and bounces that go against you. And he was very strong for Finland tonight.
Well, now I like him because you got a good head on him. Oh,
Yep.
yeah, that's I like that. Like that a lot. Who's going to win it all now, Viggs? I know you're probably going to be coming. You got your credential. You can go back and keep watching all the games. Who do you think's going to win it now?
I mean, Sweden has looked so good. The one thing I worry about with Sweden is they've been a little reliant on their power play. And if they play against a team like Finland in the next game and Finland doesn't take any penalties, you take away one of Sweden's best weapons. But from what I've seen, the Tre Kronor look like the team to beat right now.
All right. But yeah, like you said, you never know. Finland, total rivalry game. It's kind of a toss-up. So
I think Sweden's had good goaltending too. So I think their goalies look good. So
Yes.
it should be a great matchup. I hope we get some better crowds than we've seen for the non-US
it was kind of
games.
disappointing tonight, Viggs.
Tonight was a bad crowd. That we had a lot of conversations up in the press box, what they could have done differently, maybe to improve attendance. Could they have put, 2 sessions for 1 ticket? Could they have played all the quarterfinals here at Grand Casino and not have them at Mariucci tonight? I don't know. Something I think for the IIHF to think about going forward, because this building is so much more exciting when it was full, like it was for the Sweden US game. And
You're right.
That's the one disappointing thing about this tournament. And Matsko was talking about this afterwards. It's like USA Hockey is in a great spot with their development and their player pool. They're going to the Olympics here as the favorites. And, the U.S. is always a favorite in these World Juniors tournaments now to medal. Now we just need a little bit more fan support for this tournament. There's a lot of things they could do differently. Maybe moving to ESPN, maybe being smarter about the tickets.
The ticket thing was pretty bad. I mean, first coming out, prices were outrageous, Vigs. Anyone who bought tickets early basically got ripped off. I'm just going to say it. They got ripped off.
Yep. I know we had some GPLers who bought tickets right away, and the prices came down because they had trouble selling tickets. I always think, it's an NHL building. I understand that, but you want a good atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that? You get people in the building somehow.
So now we're back to Gopher hockey mode. Looks like the Gophers are down 3-2 in up in Bemidji. Splitting. Erie just came in, about 7 minutes left in the second. Gave up a late goal. I can't even see who's on the bench. They're not zooming in, so I can't really tell. But I know Gordon, I think Pondersay is there with him. I think we might be just those two guys on the bench.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures from practice. It looked like Gordon and Potter are the two guys just running everything because, Jacob's here, Bob's here, Steve's here. So a lot of Lee's here, I think.
Oh, is he?
Or not Lee. Jeff
Winslow's definitely there. I saw him on the bench. So
sorry, Lee. Sorry, Jeff.
But we're back and go for hockey mode. So that's going to be exciting. Big Penn State series this week. We've got a podcast on Wednesday. A little later, you got some hockey to cover on Wednesday night, don't you? So we'll be at 10 o'clock, right?
Yep. Late show this week because I've got a coach.
Hey, that's what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. So looking forward to that. Any last words, Vigs, for Team USA here?
I just think, for the people who are going after Matsko here, it is a players tournament. And, you don't get to get free agents to fill your roster. This is the player pool. It's very reliant on Cole Hudson. I think losing Plant was also a big minus for this team. You've got a Hobie Baker favorite there that misses some of your biggest games. That was a big impact. And
on a shot that was never even looked at. Was it a head shot, a shoulder shot, something up high? He went down.
Yeah, something up high. And Matsko said, they thought they would get him back for the next game. So I'd heard some people say he might be out for the tournament. It sounded like he was going to come back for the semis. So that was a tough loss. And I know people are going to say, oh, that's Matsko complaining about, injuries and officiating and all this stuff. And it's just like, it's the reality of the tournament.
It is reality tournament and the reality of IIHF. I'm sorry. It's just, we're going to see a lot more goofiness, Vigs.
For sure.
More games to go. There's going to be more controversies, more missed calls, more bad calls. It's just the way it is.
Everyone makes mistakes.
All right, Vigs. Maybe go out with some of the gang there and have a couple beverages. Or are you going to call it a night?
We'll see what happens.
Right. Uh-oh. Looks like we lost Vigs there. He is completely frozen. All right, gang. Well, since Vigs is frozen, it looks like we're done here. Well, wait a minute. He's come back. Let's see. Sorry, you completely froze there, Vigs.
It's the internet at Greg Casino. They want to kick us out, I guess.
Apparently. So you froze there, but you're all good. We're done anyway. Have a great rest of your weekend, Vigs. We'll look forward to seeing you on the podcast this week on Wednesday night. Have fun, man, with the rest of the tournament. It'll still be fun for you. All right, gang. Thanks for joining us for these fun little post-game shows for the World Junior Tournament. Like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday night for the regular GPL podcast as they face Penn State this weekend. Thanks, gang.